This episode is about studio etiquette.
Yep.
Be respectful of people's time. Be respectful of the craft that you're doing. Show up with good hygiene and keep the ego at check. Ego wants it now. Ego wants the success. Ego wants the respect right now, this minute. You got to keep that at check. Like, if you're doing any good work, it's going to take some time. Welcome to the Unfiltered Podcast. I'm your host, Raf, and this is my co-host, Saheer, the engineer.
Yeah.
What's good, bro?
Chilling, bro. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Excited to do another episode, another day, another episode.
Yeah, man. I'm excited to get to this one.
Yeah.
This one resonates. So.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And for the audience, for those who are new to this show, this is the Unfiltered Podcast. I am a music and tech entrepreneur who's a first-gen immigrant. I built a music label for the past decade or so while building a tech consultancy. Through this, I learned a lot of lessons. And in the past couple of years, I had a baby. So I decided to shift focus and start this podcast and really share the lessons learned over these past couple of decades.
Hell yeah.
And, this is my passion. This is why we're here.
Yep.
So here, he's my co-host and super experienced artist and producer who's been in the game for 2 decades, almost 20 years.
We've been pushing.
Yeah.
Shout out everybody supporting. Thank you.
He's been doing this for a long time and he's learned a lot of lessons in this path. Yeah. And he too has a 1-year-old. And we're really creating this content for our kids when they're a little older, they'll start Googling our names, and we just want them to find something valuable. And if you guys happen to get some value out of this, then perfect. If not, you can go subscribe somewhere else. But if you do get value here, sign up to the newsletter. We're, delivering value every week. So,
hell yeah. Growing that as we go.
Hell yeah.
Absolutely.
So I'm excited, man. This episode is a really interesting one. It's about studio etiquette.
Yeah.
What made you pick this topic today?
Man, I had to. Yeah, so it's just like, this is like my real life. I spend time in the studio. And just recently I've been going out to the studio more, and interacting with different individuals. So this was on our, we've been talking about this stuff and we've been talking about potential topics.
Right.
And I think this was there and I just felt like it just happened, just had a little short instance, a little, I don't want to call it an altercation, but it was an exchange between folks in the studio that I felt like, I can't believe it's still happening, and like, I don't mean to sound arrogant that way, but it's like, man, it's 2023. Like, we have a lot of information out there. There's a lot of talented folks out there that are actually good people that are doing really good work.
Right.
I feel like the excuse to be anything less than that is, pretty narrow. Like, sure. There's not a lot you can really say, like, for that to have like anything but a positive attitude and like something helpful in the studio. So sure. Yeah, man, I just felt like this is something I wanted to maybe get off my chest real quick and kind of get some insight from you too, because I know you've been doing the same sort of work in terms of creativity and working with people and managing people. So
sure.
Yeah, man, I'm hoping I get something out of this more than anything.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. What was the situation that triggered you into
shit? Okay, so I'm gonna keep all names out of this. I'm working on a song with an artist that I just recently started working with, and she was working with this producer who's also an engineer, and was working with him for I guess like the first year and a half that she's been doing it, maybe less, I'm not exactly sure. But anyway, they have a relationship in terms of that, creativity wise. And I met this person and she decided that she wanted to work with me, and I sent over a pack of beats and she picked a couple. And while doing her song on one of my beats, she wanted me to just take a listen, to this other song that she had. And It was already mixed, or like I guess like maybe 3/4 of the way mixed. It sounded pretty good, but you know, they were just things that she wasn't really, you know, like she wanted to do more, I guess. And producer had, like, I'm sure their own full schedule and wasn't really like, you know, working to her timeline. So then she reached out to me and was like, would you want to remix this? And so that's kind of the nature of the work, you know, that I have with this person. But the particular instance was more about, there was a technical issue in the studio. This happens all the time. And anybody that's been in this realm knows that troubleshooting is 50% of what we do as studio engineers. Shit goes wrong all the time.
Right.
I think the last thing anybody wants to do in that realm when they're there of genuine intent is be a dick to anybody. The input wasn't working. I just wasn't getting signal from the interface into, you know, Logic, and we had to call him up because he wasn't there. And so we're on the speakerphone with this person, and I'm explaining to him like, yo, I'm not getting, you know, signal from here to here.
Right.
And he said it once at the top of the call where everything is set up, you don't have to touch anything, like that sort of phrase. Then he said it again after I explained like what wasn't going wrong.
Yeah.
At that moment I realized I was dealing with somebody that did not respect me and did not respect the fact that the artist that they were working with chose to work with somebody else.
Right.
Like, I don't know how long this other person might have been doing this, but this happens all the time. Like, this is the nature of our work. Like, we all work with each other.
Right.
You look at some of these album credits, just go look at them, right? Like, it's armies of people that like are creating this, you know. It might be artist led, sure, but you got like real, like, you know, people of like genuine intent coming together to create something. Now for me, I'm there in that capacity.
Right.
So no, I wasn't looking for another mix project, to be honest. But she was just like, she was curious, like, listen to this. And then I was like, yeah, you know, you could do X, Y, whatever. She's like, all right, you think you can mix this? Now, even getting that project file over to me. Now, you could imagine dealing with somebody like that, right? Over the phone. I've never met this person before in my life. He doesn't know what I look like. I don't know what he looks like. Never crossed paths. And you're having an attitude with me over the phone. And at the end of it, he just told us to reset the interface, and it worked. I'm like, you know, you could have saved us these like 10 minutes where we went back and forth and you kept saying the same shit back to me. Now, that part, yeah, I got a little like off put, to say the least. Like, man, come on. Like, this is my first time here in your spot. Like, and it was working for our first song. Now, the second song, I opened up a new project. All of a sudden, I'm not getting signal. You know, you could easily tell me, hey, try resetting it. You know, like, if I was that person, I would easily say that. I'd save you some time, show you that, look, I'm here, like, of genuine heart. Man, it's still rare, apparently. And this was like a learning lesson for that artist as well, in like managing egos and stuff. And so like etiquette, I think, is like putting it diplomatically, you know, in that like there's a way to like go about these creative collaborative situations where you still remain valuable and a resource to this artist. And I think you have to grow, you know, in this field a little bit more to recognize how the top tier ones, the ones that are doing it at a higher level, will have multiple mix engineers do the same song,
right,
and then pick.
Yeah, like people should go into Spotify and just right click on a song, and there's a button called show credits that nobody clicks on. Just click on it. Just see.
If the label over there is decent enough, they will put
most
names. I hope so.
Most top artists.
Like, I hope so, man. The
most
top
good
artists.
Yes.
The major artists 100% do.
Yeah.
And those are the ones that I think like are the ones to be modeling yourself after. Like, there's no reason to leave these people off those credits, but yes, please look at the credits, you know, like you'll see like real, like honest, dedicated people that of the craft, you know, doing good work.
Right.
And you recognize that like there was no shortcut there. They didn't, and they also didn't put their I guess their ego ahead of what needed to get done. And that's still something that I feel like, you know, needs to be said again. It's like when you're approaching these artistic environments, your ego has to be checked at the door.
Exactly.
Like it needs that.
You took the words out of my mouth. That's exactly what I was gonna say. That's what I suggest to artists all the time. Is like, just keep the ego at the door. You know, because with artists and producers and, you know, especially the successful ones, it's like, man, their egos can be high just because there has been a lot of success.
And
you
they've
know?
done a lot.
Yeah,
And
they've done a lot.
and
So they
yeah.
feel like, oh shit, I'm the boss. Saying,
Yeah, like I should. Yeah, you
yeah,
should
and
be
you are.
listening.
Yeah, you are the boss. But let's just keep the ego at the door. It's cool.
Ah,
you know, I know it's
man.
your song.
Yeah.
But just, you know, let's just tone
Yeah,
it
just
down.
listen for a second and like
Yeah.
yeah. I think excuse me. I think that ego side though, that ego part is a problem like in all aspects of life.
Yeah,
I think
just
that's
humanity.
just everybody. Yeah.
Human problem.
But men, you know, I'm gonna speak to my fellow brethren out there. Man, like if we just like put aside what we want to see happen all the time, and you just learn to work with somebody, just give them what they want, whatever they're asking for. Don't fumble the ball. I think you'll learn a lot more and you'll become indispensable.
Right.
That's the whole point. Is that like, and also you don't want to be the sole person for one artist.
Right.
Like it, just speaking on that front and that creative side, like that's a weird dependency.
Yeah.
And you know, even Ali said after they did with Kendrick, like after a while he had other mix engineers and he would be over there at the end to make sure everything's tightened up and looked right. But like if you look at these credits, like there's all types of people mixing these songs. But yeah, Ali might, you know, take a look at the session once before it actually gets out there. So in that aspect, like Ali's also trusting that there are ears that, you know, might be able to achieve things that I might not, you know, and that takes his ego out of it, you know. And I think successful people in any aspect of life like know how to like work with talent and stay in the middle of talent, you know, all the time, no matter if it's this person, this person, this person. And as a mix engineer, right, I do wear many hats when it comes to this music thing, but when I'm doing the mix mastering side, like there's no obligation to even use, as long as you compensate for my time. Like it's your right, it's your, you know, as an artist, like, yeah, if you want to use my mix, use it, you know. If you don't, you don't.
That's
like,
fine. Yeah.
I'm not gonna feel a way about that at that point. Like I did the best that I could, and that's what I know. And also those are moments that I've grown as a mix engineer, when my mixes don't get used, when somebody comes back and tells me, hey, you know, this could be better, you know, this doesn't sound as this, and then you're like, oh shit, and you know, you're humbling yourself more and more, and then it gets even harder to deal with that kind of attitude, which is, you know. And then afterwards the artist like kind of like, you know, her and I like spoke about just him feeling maybe a little possessive of the situation,
Right.
and I'm like, I can understand that, you know. So like I am a little bit empathetic to like, that is a tough pill to swallow, so I'll acknowledge that. But that's growing up, you know. Like that's not an excuse to be a dick, especially to somebody who like you don't know. Like at that point, like, nah, I don't care to, you know, meet you, and like we can do without each other clearly. So like it's certain things where, and as a mix engineer, I was hoping I could, you know, work with him honestly, and like in a mix capacity too, because the rough mix that she was showing me, like I was like, yeah, this sounds pretty good, you know. Like I don't think like it's too far off, like you just maybe need a few drops here and there, and like we can like put this thing out. But he was just being so like difficult,
Extra.
and at that point the artist has to make an executive decision. Take the whole Pro Tools session, redo everything. I'm like, all right, good, fair.
Yeah.
And
Man.
so that's how that went. And so like that kind of prompted this studio etiquette thing. I wanted to kind of get your 1-2 as well on like having to manage these egos.
I wanted to just quickly unpack a couple of things that you mentioned here. Like, one thing you mentioned is that like if you learned more when in situations where they didn't pick your mix and went with another mix engineer, and you learned like what they did, and okay, maybe I will do that next time. That's like such a mature way to deal with things. I believe, even for me, like some time ago, I had so I was pursuing this YouTuber, and I was trying to edit his videos. I was trying to get into his editing team. You know, he's a very popular YouTuber. So it's hard to get in those teams, you know. It's like like small teams, you know.
These are coveted positions.
And it's so small that they're not trying to add too many people into it, you know. So it was like, it was going to be difficult. But I reached out and I was talking and I was having some back and forths. And so they were like, their team was like, all right, yeah, there's this particular video we have coming out. Here's all the raw files. Do what you can with it and we'll see, because they basically sent that to me and a few others as well, who was also trying for the same thing.
Yeah.
Or maybe some people in their own team was also working on it,
Right.
but they wanted to see outside of their team what people can do,
What people can do, yeah.
So he sent it to me and I was like, dude, this is my opportunity, now I can
that
get
is
close
what
to this guy.
That is what you look forward to.
Yeah. So I spent I think 18 hours on this video edit. And it was over a period of 3-4 days, but I spent a good amount of time just creating my best product. I created the nice little story and everything. Everything was dope, the way I like it. And I was like, yeah, this is gonna be great. And I was manifesting in my brain, oh shit, this is gonna be amazing.
This is my ticket.
Yeah, they're gonna watch this. They're gonna be I was imagining how they'll watch it and laugh. Oh, Raph did a good job with that part. I was thinking all this shit. And I was like, this is gonna happen. And we're gonna become part of this team.
Right. This is happening.
Yeah. And then a few weeks after, I got a message from them. We went another direction with it, and I was like, oh man.
Oh, heartbroken.
But yeah, I was kind of sad. But then quickly, I wasn't sad because I was like, you know what, fuck it. At least I figured out a process to edit certain types of videos. And his video was very particular type, so I was like, I at least got a chance to work on this type of a video, by a popular YouTuber. I learned a bunch of shit myself doing this,
Absolutely.
And then I was like, but I want to see what the final product is gonna be,
Yeah, what did he go with?
And and sometime later, the one they selected got released. And I was like, oh, I see. I learned so much from that video.
Right.
Because I figured out all the mistakes that I did.
Right.
All the things they did right. And
right.
why that was chosen. It was all in one place.
100%.
And I wrote it all down. And I was like, next time, no way. Now, sometime later, we're making our own content. All those lessons are going into our own content.
Right. Ready to rise to that standard, if not go beyond it.
Mm-hmm.
That's dope.
So yeah, that's a lesson.
That's
right
the same thing. Yeah,
Yep.
the fact that you're given an opportunity and you don't rise to the challenge.
Right.
We don't hear about those stories as much.
Right. Yeah.
And how that made you feel in terms of, are we gonna keep doing this? And I think I think I'm so far beyond that question in terms of when it comes to music, because I got that sort of out of the way. Maybe start of college-ish, 2008. So around there, I was like, nah, this is what we're doing. We're going to be in this, and we're going to learn this. No matter how much I mess up these songs that are coming up, and how much, I have to learn along the way, no failure was going to stop me in getting better. But see, having that kind of resolve, I think you as well, because you have a passion for the craft, I don't think you feel as down. Right. You don't wallow as much. What did you do? Immediately you were like, okay, what did they actually go with? I'm gonna watch this thing. And then all the light bulbs start going off. You start lighting up parts of your brain you didn't even know existed. Right. And you're like, oh shit, you're right.
Yeah.
This is what we should be doing. And I think that's I don't even know. I don't want to give credit to just being good at your craft, because I think everybody should be doing that. And I think this entitlement, that some folks feel, that hey, just because we were together, we were working together, you're not liable to change the plan if something better comes along. This is an artist like this, or any brand, any business, if a better arrangement comes around, a better situation comes around, the rug is going to get pulled out from underneath you. That is, it's liable to happen. So it behooves you to set up your business in a way that it's, immune to that feeling, which is get multiple rugs. And so that you're not ever really without, when you're not without standing on something, which is what I love about this. This is another rug, something that makes you feel okay, we have control of the situation. But that also comes from lessons like that, where we didn't get that opportunity, thinking we were going to advance from this. Man, I had a couple of other little situations that didn't work out, which we can talk about in later episodes, but like, yeah, like you learn very much craft wise, like mixing and mastering, like, oh, this is what I gotta do, and I gotta dig in much deeper.
Right.
So like, yeah, the humbleness in that is rare. The ability to just be a team player is rare. Right. Like everybody's just always out for themselves, you know, and like not knowing the detriment that they're doing to their reputation.
Yeah.
I've had too many times where like artists have like worked with me, then worked with others, and then worked with me again, and then worked with others, and then worked with me. Like it's like they have specific songs that they want me to touch versus others, and you realize that if you just do more work, if you get out there, that's a callback to earlier episodes. If you just get out there more, you start to learn that like, oh, this is just how this works, and it should inform your etiquette. You know, like how you conduct yourself amongst artists, and like the level of like pushback that you'll do is very little in terms of getting an artist what they want to do, what they want done. If they're calling on you, hey, so here, just send the session out, you know, to this person, or send the raw to that, or no, send your mix but unmastered, send it, you know. I'm like, all right, cool. Like I'm not putting, you know, like any sort of stoppage between that. And then people wonder like why, like you know, like why they might not be like calling you back. It's like, dude, you're making it hard to work with you, like, and there's just too many of us out here. Why are you acting like you're like God's gift to earth, man? No disrespect, but like do good work, you know what I mean, and do it without like expectation, and then you'll see that like it just comes back around.
Yeah, like this is why we're making these episodes, this show. It's because I want to promote being nice, you know, being good people is something I want to promote actively.
Still rare here, 2023.
Because, it's so important. Nobody understands, like some people don't understand the importance of just being nice and how far that can take you, you know, because many people, like, we grew up listening to like, oh, nice guys finish last, like, okay, maybe that's not a bad thing. Maybe the not nice guys, maybe the assholes and douchebags are finishing first because they're just hurrying and rushing through this process. You know, maybe they're not gonna have a long-term like career. Maybe the nice guys finishing last is better because they're going through the hardships of building something like slowly, and that'll just have more longevity.
And it has more wisdom to it, I think.
Yeah, that never made sense to me. Like, nice guys finish last. Like, what? What the hell is that all about? Like, nice guys don't finish last, you know?
No, that doesn't make sense. It's not real.
Yeah, and even if they did, it's because they were building something like slowly over time. It took some time. That's why they're last.
And it was worth being nice for. Yeah. Being patient, just being grateful. And then like you built something that was concrete, that was like way further in terms of success than you could ever imagine. And I think that does come from being nice. Like being a good person. Like
Ed Sheeran, I saw a video of him. He was talking to a bunch of college kids in the UK. And he was telling them that everybody that he knows are nice. Like, all the people he works with are nice. All the artists he works with are nice. If he runs into any asshole artists, he doesn't work with them. Like, you know,
it's such a low bar. I feel like, man, like, just be a good person.
He felt the need to say it.
I mean, even though it's a low respect to Ed Sheeran, man. Like,
he must run into assholes too, you know. But he felt the need to say that to these kids. You know?
Right. So hopefully, just to get that through their heads, that like, just don't become a villain, or don't get too petty on this road. You know, it saps your energy more than anything else, and makes you way more difficult to ever work with, or to even refer you as somebody to work with. Because that's another thing in this field. I think a lot of us, like, we flourish off of the word of mouth and people vouching for us. Especially when it comes to like seriously doing certain tasks like this. If you're still figuring out your sound, you're still wondering what you're going to be as an artist, XYZ, you may not be able to, you know, get like, I guess,
the word of mouth references and stuff like
that. Like a certain level of, I was going to say, like a badge of honor, but I don't want to say that. But just like, in certain circles, when you're not there, like when people talk about you, yeah, like you might not get like put up there, so like you got to work through that. But as soon as you have, you know, like a good reputation going out for yourself, maintain that even when like the world around you is being less than.
Right.
And that's really more important. I feel like people do, like, you know, exhibit good behavior, but then like they'll let one time slip, which could be like really consequential.
Right.
And which could really make the difference between them spending like another week or another year, you know, doing like whatever they were trying to do, set them back, XYZ. And like,
Wow.
I've seen it happen too many times, man, where like you have one reputation one year and then the next year, like, people are talking about you crazy. And like, I'm not, all right, I'm really not saying shit. I'm just hearing about it. And I'm like, damn, like what happened? And like, what did you, why did you feel like you were so entitled? And like the ones that don't, the ones that lasted the longest, they came into the work, they were as pleasant as possible to be around, and they exhibited, a level of etiquette, doing whatever they were doing.
Right.
And so to me, like, there are certain things that I just feel like we need to talk about real quick.
Yeah.
In terms of like, if you're in this creative space,
Right.
if you're gonna come to the studio, right? So I understand this might be a smaller section of people, but you know, you could apply this anywhere really. When it comes to collaborative work, when you're working with people in person,
Right.
and that's where I wanted to like talk about. I think bare minimum stuff, you know, which is like showing up on time.
Right.
And I
Yeah.
think-
What are your rules for somebody who's gonna come to your studio?
Yeah, we don't have a real list like top to bottom too much, but I think like there's certain indicators where I'm like, that are like certain indicators that show me that this person's serious, this person's enthusiastic,
Right.
this person is worth the best of me right now. I think one of that is showing up on time. And to me, if you can manage it is an asterisk now this day, because I have a 1-year-old. So like, I understand life happens. So I'm not like a stickler in my mind in terms of showing up on time.
Sure.
Shit happens. But if you can manage it, showing up early, being there before the doors open, I guess,
Right.
you know, with your coffee in hand, just like not showing up frantic, you know, not showing up like you just remembered that you had to be here. Those types of things go a long way, man.
Yeah.
Like, just off bat, you're already like showing people you want to be here, and whatever they have to say is, or whatever they're meeting you here for is worth happening.
Right.
Especially when you're first starting out. A quick story for that. Like, I
Let's
just
go.
think about when I was in school in Emeryville, and I was commuting from, you know, where San Jose is South Bay, right? It's like kind of towards the south, and Emeryville is more so northeast, right? It's the town that borders Berkeley.
Okay.
Berkeley is right across. There's a bridge right across San Francisco. So geographically, that's where school was.
Nice.
And I had to commute every day, which was about 55 miles, which was for 9 months easy. I would go there, you know, like as early as my first class started at 8 a.m. So like I left home 6:30, you know, 6:30 a.m. But I was doing this with a smile on my face.
That's
like
awesome.
I was doing this like, bro, I am going to the gym and loving it, because this is where like I really felt like I was around these certain rooms also are very like, they make you want to do your best. If you're really here for the right reasons, they make you want to put your best foot forward. They make you want to ensure that you'll come back.
And you're talking about SAE.
SAE,
right?
yes.
Okay.
SAE
Cool,
in
cool.
Emeryville, yep. And so anyway, I'm making this commute and I'm getting to class before everybody. Like, and I'm getting there with 10 minutes to spare, you know, and like, for me, like, I never viewed that as like a bad thing.
No, that's the best thing ever.
Like, or like something I needed to adjust, or like, oh, I could squeeze another 10 minutes and relax. No, bro. Like, you know, like, if this is something you want to do, and if this is somewhere that you want to be,
Right.
show up as early as you can. I'm not talking ridiculous shit like a half hour early. Like, don't just stand around, do something with your life, but don't get there like like 5 minutes, 10 minutes late. And especially if it's like your first time meeting somebody, or it could be your first time meeting somebody. Going to that school also helped me realize you never know who you might be working with. The people that you got into sessions with, classmates of mine that had their own networks and their own talent pool,
right?
The types of collaborations and opportunities you might get just because you were doing your thing in there. And they recognize that this person knows what they're doing, right, and they might be good for my project,
right?
So I learned a lot of etiquette stuff, like just that alone right there, like being punctual and coming early. I think that exhibited even to my instructors. So like I just not to be too braggy, but I graduated top of my class. Did I aced every exam except for soldering. Like soldering?
No, what's that?
Dog, real quick. Okay, so that was the only, and it sucks to say it, but that's the only time I failed in that whole course. One little dip was soldering. So it's like they tell you to take these cables, these audio cables, right? And you have to unravel them. And you see the different, there's like 3 different wires. Man, I can't remember right now, but one of them was the ground wire. One of them was I can't remember.
Sure.
There's 3 and they're coiled, man. It's just, and you have to take that apart and then you have to repair cable. So and it's an exam.
That's
and
interesting.
You have to test your cable to make sure that it works. Bro, my shit did not stand a chance. My hand was shaking so much, like I couldn't. And this is like actual physics, and like you're heating metal together so that it fuses together, and then you put some other shit on top of it so it stay. Bro, you couldn't. Man, come on. Like there's certain things where I'm not gonna be able to do this. And this was, I think, like metal work. I guess it falls under that. Sure. And like there was woodwork that I did in middle school in 7th grade. But never got to the metal part. It's like heating torch and shit like that. Man, so that was the one time that I couldn't really, no matter how much I tried or studied, like that part I couldn't, rise up to the challenge. But everything else, my instructors could tell, he was here to learn, and they would, divulge whatever they had, like with me especially. So I think that's like the first thing is just like the arrival. And then I think very close second is hygiene. I don't think that gets spoken about enough. And I just want all my peoples to practice good hygiene. I don't think that's too hard to ask.
It's so important in a closed studio that is like so small usually.
Oh
my God.
And I don't mean to put anybody down, but it is hard to work when you're musty, and when you're funking it up before anything's playing, it's funky in here. And it's not me, because like I 100% shower every day. There is a regimen, and like me being me, like I have to have like, just like a somewhat well-kept tidiness about myself. Right. It says, again, a lot about you as a person when you show up and you have things somewhat organized. And
respecting your craft. Like you want them to respect their craft. This is what you're trying to do. This is your dream.
Right.
Like respect it and show up with respect.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. And that's how you show respect around others too. Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. Not being, unkept. Right. And then the third thing is kind of what I was talking about with the earlier story, which was not operating with your ego, not letting your ego take over how you treat each other and how you even conduct yourself, especially around people you don't know. That will always be a very weird behavior to me that I can't believe like we're still doing here in 2023. Like, how do you feel like you're so indispensable when there are so many talented individuals everywhere? Like social media is thick. Then there's others that just aren't even on social media. Right. So like, I don't know, like having this sort of mindset that like it's either me or nothing, it's just like, that doesn't feel right at all. Yeah. And it doesn't feel like anybody that has access to the internet would want to think that way. Sure. So yeah, those 3 things. That's
very important. Like for any career, any industry that you're working in, like keeping the ego at the door and respecting your craft, like is really important. That's how you succeed, like,
or become craft oriented,
that's
so true. Don't become so caught up in the social flair of it all.
Sure.
You know,
that's
and,
interesting.
and the way that people view you, and the, you know, like, try not to feed into other folks' like perception of what you should or shouldn't be.
Wow.
And I think, like, really just become craft oriented. Man, I can't remember who said that. Somebody.
Well, you said it just now. So.
Yeah, no, for sure.
No, I'm just
damn.
kidding.
Yeah, no, it definitely was said to me. But I think it was somebody talking about the, you know, on the rise of AI and everything, and how, like, to be more, I think now more than ever, is to be about your craft. But I felt like I held that to high regard, like, from the early stages.
Right.
Just knowing that there is a way about this, and this is just what I want to do.
Sure.
And then everything else after that, you know, if I could work with more people, I knew that if I did that with respect, and I did that with like faithful completion, you know, like,
Right.
I executed on whatever they asked, like, it was going to be good for me.
Right.
So yeah, like that, those three things though, like, I think it was bare minimum.
Yeah. What were they again? Like, the first one is be on time.
Yeah. If possible, show up early.
Show up early.
Yeah.
Like, early is on time, basically.
Yeah. To
That's
me,
your principle. That
it was,
and I
bro.
love that.
It was. But man, after having a kid, like, I'm trying to be a little bit more forgiving.
No,
just
that's
to
awesome.
Other people, just because life does happen,
Right.
and, like, you don't know, like, where things. But I mean, maybe be communicative at that point.
Right.
And I think communication is huge at that point. But I don't want to get lost in asterisks. That's the first thing. Be on time.
Be on time.
Second was
have good hygiene.
Hygiene.
Respect your craft so much that you have good hygiene and you respect. Like,
you come well kept. You know,
Yes.
you come with a sense of togetherness.
Yeah. That's 2, and then number 3 was,
Three was
keep the ego at the door.
Yeah. Don't operate with ego.
Yeah.
In these environments, I feel like that's bare minimum. If you can
Right.
achieve that, if you can continuously do that, I feel like you'll find results quickly.
Yeah. For any job, anything that you're doing,
Right.
those 3 are so important. Like, just to gain that self-respect
Yeah.
for the thing that you're doing. You know,
Sure.
you know, in the past, you know. First-gen immigrants, so I've done a bunch of fucking different jobs, right?
Right.
Like, over the
Right.
years. In
Right.
college, I was at a gas station, like, working for some time, you know?
Right.
But through all this type of work, it's, like, easy to feel like, man, I don't even want to be here. You know, that's not music work. That's something else, right? Like, where you don't even want to be there.
That's
but
tough.
like, if you can respect yourself enough to do, like, a good job while you're there, it opens doors for other things later on. You know?
Sure,
That's
yeah.
the truth, you know?
Yeah.
Out of all of that, like, if you bring this attitude to anything, like, even things you don't want to do.
For something like that, it's like you don't know who you're gonna come across.
Yeah, but you still gotta respect yourself. At least, you know, be on time.
Yep,
even if it's a job you don't want. In the music game, it's a job you want because you're the fucking artist. You're here to do this.
Yeah.
But if it's a thing that you don't even want to do,
So that's even
it's important. Like, either way, like, should be easier for you if it's a job that you want to do. You know,
Exactly, and that's why I was saying, like, I didn't really care to drive out at 6:30 in the morning
Exactly.
every morning. I was
Yeah.
doing it with a smile.
Right.
But then on the flip side, I showed up every day to that teller job that was from San Jose to Los Altos. So that was also another drive, but in the westward direction,
Right.
which was like an hour and a half in traffic. I'm in a buttoned up suit, stuffy as hell, and it's bumper to bumper traffic.
Right.
But I'm getting there like before opening time, and you know you got to count cash and things like that.
Right.
And you're staying till the end. I mean, you just have to. But yeah, like, I am maintaining that principle that we want to show up on time,
Right.
no matter what we're doing. So that way, like, folks know that regardless of what, you know, might be the content of what I'm, you know, in, these core things about me are consistent, which is that I show up on time, that if I'm asked to be somewhere, I'm gonna be there, and like, unless, like, I tell you otherwise.
right?
So yeah, like that, that's huge.
Yeah, that is huge. You know, that reminds me of a book, this exceptional book that written by Ryan Holiday. It's called "Ego is the Enemy." So Ryan writes a lot about stoicism, like Stoic Principles.
Okay.
And basically, Stoic Principles are like Greek philosophy.
Okay.
Like, it originated like 300 years,
This is like
300
old world.
BC or something like
It's
that.
like
you know?
old world. Oh shit.
Yeah.
BC. Okay.
Stoicism is basically like your, you know, present, and you're not given a reaction whether things are really bad or things are really good. Either way, you're stoic. That's what stoic really means.
So like you're unmoved.
Yeah, exactly. That's what that word means. But there's it expands, like the philosophy of it. It expands to lots of principles that are shared by many cultures. Greeks shared it. Monks, Buddhist monks shared it.
Okay.
Hindu monks shared it. There's lessons like this in Islam and Christianity, and But like what I'm saying is these principles, the Stoic principles, is what Ryan Holiday writes about. And in this book, Ego is the Enemy, he talks about ego and how it can be the detriment of anybody's success.
Everything.
Anybody's work, and every person needs to keep their ego at check.
Yes.
Is the main thing that he talks about. It's quite interesting, man.
No, that makes sense, because then you're not looking at the work that needs to be done.
Right.
You're not concerned with the quality of work.
Right.
You're concerned with how is this going to make me look, or I'm going to come out on top, XYZ, prophesizing your own vanity.
Right.
Whereas like folks that have genuine compassion for the craft and for quality work, they won't care if the idea or the direction is particularly theirs.
Right.
They are just there in service of greatness.
Yes.
And at that point, like, you can't lose.
That's true. Yeah, ego is ego wants it now. Ego wants the success. Ego wants the respect right now, this minute. You got to keep that at check. Like, if you're doing any good work, it's going to take some time.
It feels entitled.
Right.
It feels like, why haven't I gotten the praise?
Yeah.
Because you view yourself, as, and I think you should. I know there's a balance. Like, you should view yourself with self-esteem, and like a level of enthusiasm and confidence.
Right.
But you have to keep that in check.
Yeah, and fact is we all face these things. Like, I felt that myself. Like
in various aspects.
Aspects, and like early on in my career, in my 20s, it was more like, hey, I'm doing all this work. When am I gonna get the flowers? And I had to go through a period of growth to get out of that.
Right.
And that's all we're asking. We're asking for people to grow. Yeah. Like, it's cool that you feel this way right now. Like anybody who's like who's facing the world with ego instead of their true higher selves.
Right.
For them, like, it's cool that you are showing up with ego, but there's some growth there that needs to be done.
Yeah, you will. I think you will if you have enough passion for things, because I remember growing out of the ego as well. It's a struggle because like I know that people are here to be used, just not misused.
Right.
And it's like just towing that balance, like where are you establishing your value and then showing up and then becoming a place that people can come back to over and over. So that's right. That's kind of I think the last, that was just the three, I think, bare minimum things.
Yeah.
Was like,
dude, like you're so right. Like,
excel.
This ego thing should literally be the number one thing.
Yeah.
Cause like ego means so much. Like, for a person, like when you're on the rise, when you're like aspiring to something, like growing, like you're still building your career. Right. If you let ego run the show, then there's a lot of opportunities you're not going to get. There's a lot of things that you will put the ego in front.
Because it has a very warped perception about what's real.
Right.
And what's actually being valued, what's actually working, what is success.
Right.
Because it's only coming from your perspective.
Right.
Yeah. So.
And then at the same time, like, while you're rising or like, working towards your dreams, you'll have this warped version of success. And then at the same time, you will have failures, right? Like when you're, rising still, there's a lot of failures on the way.
No, you are failing to the top.
Yeah. And with ego running the show, like those failures will feel worse and you won't be able to learn from those failures. Because the person like who's playing with the ego, who's showing up with high ego in these type of situations is gonna make it their identity that I must be a failure, but that's not true.
No, not at all. No.
And here's an opportunity you had to learn from the failure, but wasn't taken because ego ran the show.
Because you didn't know how to detach yourself from the work. That's really important. What you that makes sense. That like if you let go of ego, you start to detach yourself from the work. You realize you are an output of your work. Your work is not you. So there's like a level of detachment there now, and you don't hold yourself to too high of a standard,
Sure.
but at the same time you continuously grow.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And then if you let ego play in your life too much, after you've reached success, then is a big problem too, because you'll be successful with a high ego. Dude, that's like a recipe for failure, for disaster.
For disaster,
because like you let that ego run the show so much that like your success will start to fail. Because this reminds me of this story, man. Like, dude, a few years ago, I was working with an artist. Their team was working on this particular project with a very famous artist, like from the 90s. Hip hop knows this guy very well. That's why I can't mention his name. And I've really told this story to a very few people just because it's this guy.
Sure.
But anyways, long story short, this artist was working on a collab with this legend from the 90s, and they're gonna do this song together, and their team flew me out to do a little documentary. When I heard this news, I was like, hey, why don't we just do a documentary? I think this is a cool moment. Let's do a documentary, because I want to be in that room too. So they're like, yeah, of course. And so they flew me in, and this was out of state, so I flew there and took some time off of other things. This became my focus for a few days. We're gonna shoot this shit. And so we had high expectations of this legendary artist, and he came with his team as well. And I was there early, and I set everything up in the studio, you mentioned, being respectful of the time. Once he got there, dude, it was this weird vibe. He didn't want to be on camera. He didn't and we, that team spent all this money and
getting the cameras up there. Yeah.
This guy didn't want this to happen. Wow. And he wasn't open about it. We didn't know what was going on. And then it was more like a situation where he was just talking to his people, just whispering, and just trying to be this weird shady situation started.
That sounds
and I felt
weird.
Really uncomfortable because I was the guy with the cameras and I'm setting this documentary up. And so this whole thing feels
directly beefing with you.
Yeah, it feels kind of personal. But I was like, what the fuck is happening, Is it me? But it wasn't, but it was just something's happening. And then
anybody.
Then we realized that this fucking legendary guy, right, who's reached success and all this shit, he now, I guess, maybe he feels that, something's up in his head. He might feel that he doesn't have what it takes like he did back in the day. So his lyrics, he gets it written by somebody else. He's got a ghostwriter.
Wow.
Okay, fine. He's got a ghostwriter. Okay. I mean, that's not the first time we're hearing this. That's fine.
That's not new. Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe if you wanted to hide your ghostwriter, do this writing before you come to the studio. I don't know. But anyways, he brought his ghostwriter.
Okay, he's got to be in the studio with him vibing. And
this guy is basically writing the lyrics and also helping him, coaching him on his delivery on the mic. Now this guy, the artist, he doesn't want this to be shown to the world. That's the reason the documentary cameras are a problem. Right.
Okay.
And then he's just like, man, nobody told me there was going to documentary and this and that. Just causing issues for no reason. But the real reason is this ghostwriter is here. He doesn't want anybody to see this.
Yeah.
And that just told me so much about him. So much in this small thing,
Ego-centered.
Yeah, for me, I got all this footage. We can't ever release it. But it was a waste of time. But I learned so much from this. Okay, when you reach success, if you let ego run the show, this is the kind of shit that'll happen. He let his ego go to his head so much that he's thinking hey, I'm this, successful artist. I don't have it anymore. I need a ghostwriter. Okay. He couldn't face that, just because his ego was in the way. He was fearful of other people's judgment.
He's not there to make hit records.
Yeah. He's just afraid of the judgment. What's gonna happen? They're gonna see all the truth behind the the art. Okay, that's all of it is fine. I'm okay with all of that. But if he could be a nice guy and tell me that, I could understand that.
That would go so much longer. That would go so much further.
Yeah, I'm not him. I'm not his even family. So I don't know what he's been through. And maybe the ego makes sense. Maybe it's protected him in his life.
Yeah.
Could we express it in a nicer way? let's try to grow out of it. That would be my suggestion to
ideal.
New artists and other people who are
That's
watching
ideal.
this.
Yeah.
Ideally, you want to learn how to get out of the ego trip. But if you have ego like that legendary artist had, maybe it works for him. I don't know. But like, if it does, can we be nice about it? Or like, tell your manager to tell me this shit. Don't fucking tell it to me like that. You know what I mean?
My God,
like that's all I want. Like,
right.
Just be nice. I could get it. Like, I could get it. I could. If somebody told me, I feel kind of bad that I used to be a legend and now like I can't do this shit no more, and so I have a ghostwriter. I don't want this to be seen by the world. If somebody told me that, I'll be like, bro, I totally get it.
Cool, yeah.
You know, I feel it. Like the way you just said
that.
it, like that was vulnerable. That was like, man, I feel it, bro.
That's because you're a good guy, right? Like, and you wouldn't exploit that. But like, maybe he's come across people that did try to exploit something like that.
There you go.
But like, but speaking to, you know, just that aspect in terms of ghostwriter, like, yo, just write the record. Like, who gives a fuck? Like, most people don't care. Like, some of y'all should use a ghostwriter. You know, I've used writers as well. Like, the input is great, you know, and the ability to filter out dope stuff, you know, amongst other people just makes better music.
Right.
And if you're gonna do that, just be upfront about it, you know. Like, these people wrote the song.
Right.
And I think, like, you know, for the most part, like, majors have, you know, like, all of their credits are up there. You can see written by, and yeah, that artist might be the first name that you see, but sometimes there's 2 or 3 other names that are right behind that.
And no one knows who wrote what. So
exactly.
Just put it
exactly. The point is that these people were there to collaborate, and you know, whoever this artist is a decent person, and they are giving people their due credit.
Yeah.
And that's etiquette. You know what I mean? And that it's a two-way street at that point, and you'll see it be a two-way street.
Right.
When you come forth with respect, and you know, you come with a genuine intent to do good work. Right. Then that gets shown, and that's like, you know, it gets reciprocated.
Right.
In the future.
Right.
Through different opportunities.
Right.
So.
Yeah, dude. Like, in a situation like that, you know, there's so many ways to go. You know, like even telling,
like that's
even expressing what you just said. Like even expressing that, hey, you know, we have a ghostwriter. But we're not ready to show it to the world. So turn off the cameras.
Or just ask bro to hang outside. How about that? Like, you know, like let's
get some shots without this dude.
Yeah, or something. Or like maybe don't have homies pull up to the studio. Like, how about that? Like, you know, do what every decent rapper that wants to put up a front does, and just text your ghostwriter. Like, keep it on email. Like, why do they have to be there in person? Like, and if they are gonna be there in person, you should value them as a writer, not a ghost writer. That needs to, I think that there's just the mindset on that whole like ghost writer, whatever that is, needs to change. Right. Because if they're in there vibing out with you, like, this is not a ghost, man. Like, this man is here, or this person is here.
And just be nice about it. That's it. All right. We'll figure it out. Like, it's all good.
Exactly.
We understand marketing.
Yeah. You have an image to uphold.
Yeah.
We're not here to like be a stick in the mud.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that, I think that does go a long way.
Right. Yep. And it's, man, I agree with you 100%. Like, over the years, I've worked with so many different teams and crews, you know, and it's just like that collaborative spirit was the most important thing in the room, you know. You know, when artists and many different types of musicians are hanging out and recording something dope, like, there can be a lot of distractions, there can be a lot of things going on. And all of that can be forgiven if like everybody's like being collaborative and being nice and just being respectful of the craft. Like you get like longevity through that, you know. Everybody's relationship improves through these type of experiences. Yeah. And you know, artists like who are starting out like need to think about that. Or
creatives
first.
Even like whatever producer, mix, engineer, even studio assistant, intern, your runner, like whatever it is, like you know, show up there like to work and be serious about whatever you're doing. You know, you can shoot the shit. It's not like it's like one thing or the other, but there's I think for every level of, you know, person that's at least in this creative production studio space, we can all exhibit those 3 things and then maximize each other's like potential.
Right. Yeah. Yep. You're right. Yeah, just nailed it there, because that's the main premise of everything that we're talking about in this podcast, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I want people, like, we want people to live their full, unfiltered selves. Like,
Exactly.
be you. Be 100% you. Just don't be a fucking dick. Don't be an asshole. Don't be a douchebag. Like, those are the terms and conditions.
Bare minimum,
you know?
man.
Yeah,
I
that's
keep
the
saying
bare
that shit.
minimum. Like,
Sure.
and this studio etiquette is basically a little step towards that. You know, just be respectful of people's time. Be respectful of the craft that you're doing. So, like, show up with good hygiene and keep the ego at check.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? It's so important.
Simple.
But that's the show. That's the
For
episode.
sure, man.
Thank you again, Saheer.
Yeah,
that
thank
was
you,
dope.
bro. All right, peace.